Hello and welcome to today's IndustryWeek webcast, 20th Annual Global CEO Survey, brought to you in partnership with PwC and sponsored by Epicor. My name is Steve Minner. I'm the Executive Editor with IndustryWeek. Before we begin, let me explain how you can participate in today's presentation. First of all, if you have any technical difficulties during today's session, please press the Help button on your player console to receive assistance in solving common issues. If at any time you're having audio difficulties or slides are not advancing, hit your F5 key to refresh your webcast console. This webinar technology allows you to resize the presentation by clicking the Maximize icon or by dragging the lower right corner to enlarge the window. We welcome your questions during today's event. In order to submit your questions to today's presenter, simply type your question into the question window on the left-hand side of your screen and then hit the Submit button. We'll be answering as many questions as possible during the question and answer session that will follow the main presentation, but please feel free to send in your questions at any time and we'll add them to the queue. On your console, the PwC and Epicor logos are hot-linked, so if you want to visit their websites during this webcast, you can click on the logo and a new window will open. This will not take you out of the webinar. Please also be aware that today's session is being recorded and will be available on the IndustryWeek website within the next week for you to review. You'll be notified by email when the archive is available. Now let me introduce today's presenter. Kimmy Donald is a Senior Manager in PwC's assurance practice. She has over 9 years of experience leading large multinational public and private clients within the industrial manufacturing sector. Kimmy focuses on advising clients in areas such as SEC reporting, managing multinational engagements, mergers and acquisitions, and other technical accounting matters. Additionally, she works directly with the global industrial manufacturing sector leader as a client advisor, providing perspectives and insights into sector thought leadership and business development initiatives. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kimmy.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to this audience today on PwC's 20th CEO Survey and provide key insights into the industrial manufacturing results. For the last 2 decades, PwC has asked business leaders from around the world about the trends reshaping business and society. The intent with the survey is to get a pulse of executives' current thinking, given all the variability of running global companies and the various geopolitical dynamics and technological advances impacting businesses today. The survey results is a one-stop shop for executives and interested business women and men to have a read-through and see what current thoughts are on the minds of CEOs today. As we mark the 20th year of our annual CEO survey, we've observed just how much the world has changed. During this presentation, I will spend time talking through the methodology and participant group of the survey before diving into the key imperatives you see on the agenda on page 2. I will then touch on digital tools and resources and end with a Q&A session. PwC's Global Chairman Bob Moritz provided an introduction to the Global CEO Survey, where he stated, quote, "Our 20th CEO survey explores what executives in 2017 think about key imperatives: managing man and machine to create a workforce that's fit for the digital age, preserving organizational trust in a world of increasingly virtual interactions, and making globalization work for everyone by ensuring the benefits are distributed more fairly." Bob Moritz states, "The challenge common to all 3 imperatives is leadership. In a time of heightened anxieties juxtaposed with the highest levels of transparency we've ever experienced, how leaders engage with employees and stakeholders, both public and private, has never been more important. Strategy can no longer be an approach of simply numbers and bottom lines. strategy must be built upon a long-term vision of growth, access, equality, innovation, and the human endeavor. The last of these is arguably the most important, because linked to it is the critical concept of trust. Before touching on the key imperatives within the survey, I would like to provide an overview of the methodology and participant demographics from our 20th annual survey. On slide 4, you will see certain participant data from this year's survey. PwC interviewed nearly 1,400 CEOs from 80 countries. Of the CEOs surveyed, 292 were from the manufacturing industries, covering 56 countries. 20 CEOs from 16 countries took part in our in-depth in-person interviews. Survey feedback was collected by a mix of internet, telephonic, and postal responses between September and December of 2016. This year, 7% of the sample of CEOs were female, and 36% of the companies surveyed had annual revenues of more than $1 billion. Additional participant data for this 2016 survey is shown on this slide. The world has changed a lot since 1997, which was the first year PwC launched its Global CEO Survey. Since we began the survey, globalization and technology have jointly enabled a massive increase in trade and financial flows and online global traffic, with the arrival of Google, Wikipedia, Facebook, and many others. There has been a 4-fold increase in trade and a 5-fold increase in financial flows around the globe, and nearly 1 billion people have been lifted out of extreme poverty. This level of interconnectivity has raised engagement with stakeholders and forced society to think about how information is accessed and consumed. But these changes have also brought with them some difficulties: rising inequality, growing mistrust in business, and discontent socially and with the political establishment. Over the past 20 years, manufacturing CEOs have been tasked with exhibiting strong change agility as a result of globalization and technological change. CEOs are standing at the crossroads and are dealing with 4 key challenges. 1, competing in an age of divergence. 2, managing man and machine. 3, gaining from connectivity without losing trust. And 4, making globalization work for all. Now let's spend a few minutes on one of the pivotal areas for CEOs today: competition in an age of divergence. Globalization has brought many benefits, but also downsides. With greater convergence has come greater divergence in beliefs, values, and systems, and growing public discontent over rising inequality. CEOs are concerned about uncertain economic growth, overregulation, and skill shortages. Public discontent over the rising inequality to which globalization and technology have contributed has created big economic and geopolitical uncertainties as businesses search for global growth. CEOs are also grappling with a wide range of other threats and the unpredictability of the current environment. The divergent world I've just described feeds into the level of concerns exhibited by CEOs. As slide 8 shows, CEOs' levels of worry continue to rise in most of the economic, social, environmental, and business threat areas. The top areas for concern from the global CEO results, which have risen to the greatest degree from prior year surveys, are 1, availability of key skills. 2, speed of technological change. 3, changing customer behavior. And 4, lack of business trust. We can also see from this survey question that the number of CEOs worried about an issue like regulation is more than double the number than we saw in our first survey. In this environment, manufacturing CEOs view uncertain economic growth, geopolitical uncertainty, and exchange rate volatility as the top 3 threats to business prospects. Among business threats, availability of key skills tops the list of concerns, which has continued to trend upward in importance since 2013 to the current year. In 2013, CEOs' concern level of availability of skills was at 53%, and in this year's survey, that number has risen to 81%. What is the good news? Uncertainty has become a way of life for companies. As you see on slide 9, the global survey polled CEOs on 2 questions. 1, do you believe global economic growth will improve, stay the same, or decline over the next 12 months, which is depicted by the red line in the graph? And question 2, how confident are you about your company's prospects for revenue growth over the next 12 months and next 3 years, which is depicted in the orange line? The survey results for these questions from 2004 to 2017 and 2012 to 2017 respectively have been charted within the line graph. What we can surmise from these results is that despite the concerns and headwinds CEOs face today, they are more optimistic than last year, specifically more confident that their revenues will grow in the year ahead, and are predicting that global economic growth will climb in 2017. As you can see on slide 10, the CEO survey results specific to industrial manufacturing companies to the question, how confident are you about your company's prospects for revenue growth over the next 3 years, showed a healthy, relatively optimistic outlook on their company's future growth. 41% of industrial manufacturing CEOs said they were very confident in PwC's 20th CEO survey. This graphic also shows other industry sector results. Looking longer term over the upcoming 3-year horizon, the almost 1,400 CEOs surveyed, including industrial manufacturing CEOs, are bullish on their companies, with a global average of 51% of CEOs very confident. In historical context, this compares to only 33% in our first survey. Why such optimism? CEOs have undoubtedly had to cope with very stormy conditions, so perhaps natural selection has played a part. Anyone who reaches the top of their respective market has already adapted to uncertainty. Alternatively, perhaps CEOs have learned to look for the upside and seize on the opportunities uncertainty brings. One thing is clear, they are not waiting things out. Another interesting survey result, shown on slide 11, were the responses to the question, which of the following activities, if any, are you planning in the coming 12 months in order to drive corporate growth or profitability? Manufacturing CEOs follow the global pattern in expecting a lion's share of growth of 76% to develop organically, and 61% of growth expect growth to be driven by cost reduction. New alliances and mergers and acquisitions followed at 41% and 39% respectively. Germany, however, maintains a higher profile in manufacturing importance than the global average, with 29% of industrial manufacturing CEOs saying that Germany will be the most important nation to their growth in the next year, versus only 17% globally. This is not surprising, given Germany's long history of manufacturing strength. The results of cross CEOs from all industries were aligned with responses from the manufacturing industry, with 79% polling organic growth and 62% polling cost reduction as the top 2 activities CEOs are planning to drive corporate growth or profitability. While there is still an appetite for mergers and acquisitions, CEOs recognize that it's not enough to focus on organic growth and cost reductions alone. The global survey results, shown on slide 12, illustrate that CEOs are prioritizing investment in innovation, digital capabilities, and human capital as the method to capitalizing on new opportunities. Based on the survey results just discussed, we have included a few tough questions to ask on slide 13 for companies to consider as they make key decisions on growth strategies, investment decisions, and the continued change agility needed to operate in today's global marketplace. Questions such as, in a more uncertain world, where will you increase your investment and where will you hunker down? Or, in an increasingly risky business environment, how can you factor both agility and resilience into your growth strategy? Are key questions for companies to consider. As I turn to the next section on slide 14, some CEOs worry that globalization will take away their jobs, and they're even more nervous about the impact of technology. 20 years ago, there were fewer than 700,000 industrial robots worldwide. Today, there are 1.8 million. Manufacturing output has simultaneously risen, but employment in the sector has fallen in various advanced economies. Yet, CEOs still need people, and they see the value in marrying technology with uniquely human capabilities. But the challenge is in finding those people. Skill shortages, particularly the soft skills that CEOs value most, continue to threaten business growth. To address the issue, CEOs are searching more widely for talent. I will now turn our attention to the next key imperative from the 20th Annual CEO Survey, Managing Man and Machine, beginning on slide 15. As part of focusing on human capital and technology, we ask CEOs how they are thinking about strengthening man and machine in order to capitalize on new opportunities. Manufacturing CEOs see innovation as a key to a future that is driven by talent, skill, relationships, and intelligent deals. In short, the human factor is working in concert with technology to create opportunities, not remove jobs. Manufacturing CEOs agree with the global average, with 29% citing prioritizing innovation and 18% selecting human capital as the two areas they most want to strengthen in order to capitalize on new opportunities. CEOs place slightly higher importance than average on gaining competitive advantage, with 15%, flagging that as the third most important springboard to opportunity versus 10% globally. From there, in terms of seizing opportunity, industrial manufacturing puts equal weight of 8% on digital and technology capabilities, customer experience, and M&A. Behind the scenes of the world's leading industrial product companies, a profound digital transformation is now underway. The industrial manufacturing sector is no exception. Companies are digitizing essential functions within their internal vertical value chain, as well as with their horizontal partners along the supply chain. In addition, they are embracing their product portfolio with digital functionalities and introducing innovative database services. Many companies are already producing machines to deliver on the vision of the connected factory, using the power of the internet to link machines, sensors, computers, and humans in order to enable new levels of information monitoring, collection, processing, and analysis. This added visibility has the potential to increase the products and services that companies can offer their customers, helping them work in collaborative ways in the design of future machines and their digital environment to boost performance and integrate their company's operations. Examples include providing insight into production levels, inventory and capacity availability, quality levels, and order status from all suppliers. A number of technologies, including robotics, cobotics, drones, 3D printing, and nanotechnology, have direct relevance for many industrial manufacturing applications, while other technologies, such as augmented reality, can enable manufacturers to give customers real-time information and training at the point of use. Some of these developments are maturing now. Others remain for the future. The rate of adoption of technology by industrial manufacturing companies is accelerating fast. The digitization, integration, and automation opportunities offered enable companies to collaborate both internally and across their value chains in ways that can provide a step change in productivity as well as design and build quality. And they are opportunities that are increasingly important as companies seek to stay relevant as the era of the digitally connected smart infrastructure develops. But the human factor presents a challenge, as the skills considered most important are not those that can be replicated by machines, and CEOs worry that key skill shortages could impede growth. So who are companies hiring? We asked CEOs about skills most important to them, and then what skills were hardest to hire for, as shown on slide 16. Problem solving and adaptability were the top-ranking skills for the global results, and top-ranking skills for industrial manufacturing CEOs. But the skills hardest to find are creativity and innovation, leadership, and emotional intelligence, the skills that are the most difficult to automate. Interestingly enough, digital skills are towards the bottom of the list for both the global results and the industrial manufacturing results. So it seems to be the soft skills that CEOs value most, and CEOs are concerned that a shortage of these skills could threaten business growth. It should not be dismissed how technology also creates new jobs. Jobs for people who can design, monitor, maintain, and fix technology. Industrial manufacturers need additional skills as well. They must figure out how to manage a superabundance of new data so that it becomes useful and not overwhelming. Adapt technology to run their own supply chains and operations more seamlessly, monetize digitization, and find talent adept at industrial software programming and analytics, and build strategic partnerships that won't compete for market share. If connected machines are to be the backbone of the industry in the near future, industrial manufacturers will have to determine how to manage the incoming data from sensors, integrated equipment and platforms, and faster information processing systems. There will be a critical need to hire people who can mine these bits and bytes of data and work more closely with customers to use the data to improve equipment performance and open new revenue streams. However, industrial manufacturing companies may find themselves at a disadvantage in attracting and retaining talent, as many of the best and brightest STEM students, science, technology, engineering, and math, would prefer to work in Silicon Valley, where innovation is at the forefront, as opposed to industrial manufacturing locales. The 2017 Industrial Manufacturing Trends White Paper on New Operating Models, Aggressive Hiring, Smart Partnerships, and Targeted Investment indicates that industrial manufacturing companies must purposefully map out an exciting technology strategy with specific benchmarks and achievements and communicate that plan to job candidates. In developing the program, looking for balanced capabilities is important, both reading the data and application to the business. Thus, CEOs are looking more widely to find the skills that they need by promoting diversity and inclusiveness, changing people's strategy to reflect skills and employment structures needed for the future, and moving talent and/or looking for talent regardless of demographics or geography. Specific to balancing innovation with human talent and technology, we have included questions on slide 17 that can be important to focus on as a company looks at its business model and the balancing scales of man and machine. Questions such as, how are you going to find the rarer skills like leadership, creativity, and adaptability required for your company to innovate and build brand differentiation? Or have you redesigned your business processes so that your employees are best placed to work seamlessly with automation to create value, are critical in continuing to balance man and machine? As I move on to slide 18, since the inception of our survey, the definition of trust has changed, specifically expanded. 20 years ago, trust wasn't as high on the business radar as it is today. In fact, we didn't survey CEOs about it until 2002, when the business community was reeling from the bursting of the dot-com bubble and the collapse of the equity markets. Since then, the financial crisis has catapulted trust into the limelight, and the after effects of stagnant economic growth and spiraling debt levels continue to fuel a climate of mistrust. The impact on CEOs has been significant. In 2013, 37% worried that lack of trust in business would harm their company's growth. This year, the number has jumped to 58%. The breakdown in public trust now poses a potent risk to political, economic, and social systems. Every decision and action that business leaders take, whether it involves customers, employees, suppliers, partners, shareholders, or the wider community, has a bearing on trust. In an increasingly transparent world, companies need a clear moral compass. The next imperative that I want to spend a bit of time discussing today relates to how companies are looking for connectivity and technology without losing public trust, which is of paramount importance. From previous years, trust has been climbing steadily up the CEO agenda. CEOs have witnessed that in an increasingly digitalized world, it's harder for businesses to gain and keep trust. And CEOs fear that technology just makes the potential for mistrust in organizations even worse. On slide 19, CEOs were asked, to what extent do they agree or disagree with the following statements? 1, that it is more important to have a strong corporate purpose that is reflected in their values, cultures, and behaviors, to which 93% of CEOs agreed. The second statement, that it is more important to run businesses in a way that accounts for wider stakeholder expectations, 85% of CEOs agreed. 69% of CEOs agree that it is hard for business to gain and keep trust, followed by 64% of CEOs agreeing how they manage people's data will differentiate them. Paralleling the global survey results, industrial manufacturing executives also polled, and 93% of CEOs saying strong corporate purpose has gained in importance, as has the need to account for wider stakeholder expectations at 80%, and difficulty in gaining and keeping trust at 69%. In the first year the PwC CEO Survey was released, we asked CEOs to predict the impact of technology on their businesses, ranging from a complete reshape of the industry to no impact. Interestingly enough, CEOs' predictions of the impact of technology 20 years ago is not too far off from where CEOs view impact today. You can see from the picture on slide 20. Today, even a greater proportion of CEOs expect their industries to be completely reshaped by technology than 20 years ago. Specific to the Industrial Manufacturing Industry White Paper, Industry 4.0, Building the Digital Enterprise, Industrial Manufacturing Key Findings, published by PwC, industrial manufacturing companies plan to invest 5% of annual revenue in digital operations solutions over the next 5 years. Many companies are already producing machines to deliver on the vision of a connected factory, using the power of the internet to link machines, sensors, computers, and humans in order to enable new levels of information monitoring, collection, processing, and analysis. Keeping this in mind, we'll dive deeper into manufacturing CEO's point of view on how the increase of dependence on technology is impacting trust on slide 21. Within the industrial manufacturing industry, the rapidly growing number of sensors, embedded systems, and connected devices, as well as the increasing horizontal and vertical networking of value chains, results in a huge continuous data flow. With so many points of entry, companies need to take a rigorous, proactive approach to data security and related issues, and work to build digital trust. A sizable number of CEOs are convinced that in an increasingly digitized world, it is harder for businesses to gain and retain people's trust. They also think that it's becoming more important to both run their companies in a way that addresses wider stakeholder expectations and to establish stronger corporate purpose that's reflected in their organization's values, culture, and behavior. So which risks arising from connectivity concern CEOs most? When technology and trust are considered, most of us automatically think of how reputations are made and lost overnight through mass communications regarding breaches of data privacy and ethics, cybersecurity, or social media risks. Many industrial manufacturers find it difficult to manage digitization and big data analytics because their internal IT systems are so unwieldy. As company operations have grown more complex, expanding into new global markets and product lines, and integrating newly acquired firms over many years, the old ERP systems that were meant to drive efficiency and coordination have turned into a tangle of disparate networks. Thus, breaches of data and cybersecurity continue to be at the forefront of concern for industrial manufacturing CEOs. In this landscape, it is difficult for IT to respond quickly or adequately to business and market demands and facilitate digital solutions. When asked, to what extent do you think the following areas will impact negatively on stakeholder trust levels in your industry in the next 5 years? Industrial manufacturing CEOs responded similarly to all CEOs surveyed, with results indicating the extent to which the following areas will negatively impact stakeholder trust. 41% believe that breaches of data privacy and ethics will negatively impact shareholder trust, as compared to 55% of all CEOs. 40% believe that cybersecurity will negatively impact trust, as compared to 53% of all CEOs. And 29% believe that risks from use of social media will negatively impact shareholder trust, as compared to 38% of all CEOs. Other areas of public concern of all CEOs surveyed include IT outages and disruptions, artificial intelligence, and automation. As we think about technology and the continuous advances in this digital age we are operating in, tough questions to ask are on slide 22 and can be centered on how can you build the right infrastructure for collecting, managing, governing, and securing data? What can you do to measure and leverage trust in your brand as a competitive advantage? Or what are you doing to protect customer and employee data from theft, loss, or misuse? And how robust are those strategies? Digital connectivity is a force linking the world more closely, as certain countries will always reach out globally because they cannot produce everything they need. And many will continue to collaborate on borderline issues, like security and the environment. Simply put, the world has become more complex. The last imperative I will discuss on today's webinar from the 20th Annual CEO Survey focuses on how companies are making globalization work for all. Over the past 20 years, CEOs have become more ambivalent about the benefits of globalization. They believe it's helped to facilitate trade or connectivity and a skilled workforce, but not mitigated climate change, developed fairer tax systems, or closed the gap between rich and poor. Let's take a deeper dive into this now on slide 24. Based on the global results from the survey question, to what extent do you agree or disagree that it is becoming harder for CEOs to balance competing in an open global marketplace with trends towards more closed national policies? It is evident that CEOs recognize the challenge as the world's political and social compass begins to point more toward national interests rather than collective global ones. 58% of global CEOs surveyed agree or strongly agree that it is becoming hard to balance competing in this current environment. On slide 25, specific to manufacturing CEOs, 55% agree or strongly agree that it is becoming harder for CEOs to balance competing in an open global marketplace with trends towards more closed national policies. But CEOs are also keen to collaborate with governments to fix the systems that support global change and ensure a fair distribution of the benefits to be gained from keeping the doors to globalization open. As shown on slide 26, while nearly 2/3 of global CEOs surveyed agree that globalization has benefited connectivity and improved the ease of moving capital, people, goods, and information, 44% say it has not helped at all in closing the gap between rich and poor. Manufacturing CEOs survey results were in alignment with the global results seen on the slide. And as global frameworks for trade show strain, the same proportion agree that it will be more difficult to compete and succeed in a closed world. We asked CEOs to tell us how they think the corporate community can work with others to stimulate change in areas where globalization hasn't produced desirable results. The majority of CEOs say the best way for businesses to help spread the benefits of globalization more widely is to have more and better collaboration with government. But while they can see that companies need to work more closely with governments, some add that governments don't listen very well. Further, some CEOs point out that technology can also resolve certain issues, and the business world is in an ideal position to help to areas of healthcare and continuing education. IT solutions coupled with government and business cooperation could help to better connect patients and caregivers and/or provide opportunities for workers displaced by globalization. Some companies already collaborate with educational institutions to co-develop courses and sponsor degrees. Addressing the dangers of globalization and technology while capitalizing on the opportunities they present is a delicate balancing act. Many CEOs freely admit that while they struggle with this, both because they're uncertain about the extent of their company's social obligations and because greater emphasis on shareholder value has made it far more difficult to prioritize long over short-term performance. But the events of the past year have shown us just how interconnected the interests of shareholders and other stakeholders really are. Businesses that ignore the power of the people will jeopardize the growth they seek. Conversely, businesses that respond effectively by articulating their purpose, anticipating risks, and adhering to the values they profess will thrive. When thinking about how globalization works for all, companies should be asking tough questions, such as those shown on slide 27, which include such questions like, how well has the company assessed the impact of current sentiment about globalization on its ability to compete? Or, are you making the most of your reporting to ensure all your stakeholders are aware of your initiatives to support workforce, community, and social initiatives? As well as, have you evaluated your global tax strategies recently to consider the impacts of public and government views on tax obligations to support public services? Before I touch on where you can find more information on PwC's full survey results, I would like to leave you with some additional viewpoints from PwC's Global Chairman. As a foreword to the Global CEO Survey, Bob Moritz stated, demographic shifts, rapid urbanization, a realignment of global economic and business activity, and a scarcity of resources are among the mega trends affecting the world that we have been studying for the past 20 years. These are the shifts that have affected the CEO's mindset. Since we began our survey, globalization and technology have jointly enabled a massive increase in trade and financial flows and online traffic. This level of interconnectivity has raised engagement with stakeholders and forced society to think about how information is accessed and consumed. Increased transparency demands a new way of communication, a higher level of accountability, an elevated approach to leadership, and indeed, a deeper focus on trust, purpose, and the inherent human connection that has brought us closer together. Our 20th survey explored what CEOs currently think about competing in an age of divergence, managing man and machine, preserving trust in a world that increasingly becomes more virtual, and making globalization work for all. I hope everyone was able to embrace certain facts and interesting perspectives from the key imperatives discussed today from PwC's 20th Annual CEO Survey. The full survey report is available online, and I will quickly take you through where you can find more information and view the survey in an interactive way to most benefit those topics of interest. On slide 29, the firm has a wide range of digital tools and resources at your disposal to find out much more information on the 20th Annual Survey results. If you are interested in more data and information from the survey, the first step is to go to our online Data Explorer page at pwc.com/CEO Survey Data. From there, you can then pick a question you are interested in finding more data around by selecting one of the two theme tabs and choosing a question. You can also customize and slice and dice the data by industry group, geographic location, or by selecting multiple filters to collect and view the data that most interests you. We encourage you to have a look through our CEO Survey webpage to explore our key findings and see the transcripts and videos from our face-to-face CEO interviews. The site and content have been redesigned to be accessible on your iPad and mobile devices. Thank you for allowing me to share insights today into PwC's 20th Annual CEO Survey, specifically into the minds of industrial manufacturing CEOs. We see that questions have been coming in throughout our hour together, so we can take some live questions now, and any questions I am unable to address on the live webinar, I will respond via email.
Okay, Kimmy, thanks very much. As she mentioned, a few of you have already submitted questions, so we're going to jump right in. While Kimmy is answering your questions, please take a moment to answer the feedback form that appears on the left-hand side of your screen. And with that, we'll get started. Our first question is, you mentioned that the survey results showed that CEOs are worried that globalization will take away jobs. Does the survey have any insight into how this will impact hiring decisions in the coming years?
Thanks, Steve. The PwC CEO Survey did include the following question: do CEOs expect headcount at their companies to increase, decrease, or stay the same over the next 12 months? Industrial manufacturing CEOs responded with 54% expecting headcount to increase within the next 12 months. 34% expect headcount to remain the same, while 12% expect headcount to decrease. Now, this is slightly higher than the global results of expected increase in headcount. These poll results illustrate that while technology is changing at rapid speed, it should not be dismissed how technology is creating new jobs, and how CEOs still need people, particularly with the soft skills needed in areas such as creativity and innovation, leadership, and emotional intelligence. Technology is actually affording opportunities for people who can design, monitor, maintain, and fix technology in industrial manufacturing companies. Industrial manufacturers need additional skills as well. As I stated earlier, there's a superabundance of new data for companies now, and it's becoming useful and not overwhelming to have employees and hire those soft skills in order to figure out how to adapt that technology to enhance their own supply chains and operations more seamlessly.
Okay. Our second question is, data and the overwhelming abundance of it continues to be a focal point for companies. What is PwC seeing from the survey and industrial manufacturing clients on how companies are managing data and using this data to continue to compete in an increasingly digital world?
Yep. So we are seeing industrial manufacturing clients strategize how best to deal with the pace of technology and that superabundance of data I previously spoke about. With the use of the connected machine, and if that expectation is that that connected machine technology will be the backbone of the industry, industrial manufacturers will have to figure out how to best manage the data coming from that avalanche of sensors and integrated equipment and the ever-evolving faster information processing systems. There is a critical need to hire people who can mine these bits and bytes of information and work more closely with customers to use that data to improve equipment performance and open new revenue streams. From the survey results and our clients' interactions, we are seeing a profound digital transformation underway. Companies are digitizing essential functions within their internal vertical value chain, as well as horizontal partners along the supply chain. We see that clients in the industrial manufacturing sector is enhancing product portfolios with digital functionalities and introducing innovative database services.
Okay. Our next question is, you mentioned that 29% of respondents believe that Germany was the most important country for their growth in the coming year. Do you have insight into the other countries that CEOs considered important?
Thanks, Steve. Yes, I do, and this is actually one of the questions that if listeners are interested in looking at the online survey, they're able to pull this by different industry sectors and countries. As we look at this question, the other countries, and the way the survey question was asked is that it would exclude your base country. The other two countries that CEOs considered important for their overall growth prospects was the United States and China. One thing I think it's important to keep in mind is that in prior survey results, CEOs saw emerging markets as a sure ticket to success, and those were really the only markets that the earliest surveys focused on, where more recently, CEOs have turned to a broader mix of countries to help support growth, and the focus is not specifically concentrated in only one or two emerging areas as it was viewed in the past.
Okay. The next question is, you mentioned the ability to filter the global survey results. Can you explain that further?
Sure. So when you go online to the survey data, you'll have the ability to filter survey questions under two themes. The first is growth and competition, and the second is globalization and tech. Now, each of these themes have the survey questions underneath once you filter for the specific question that you would like to see. You can then select, there are 22 industries, and all the countries that were included in the survey are available for you to select certain industries and certain countries so that you can easily compare responses globally and for the specific deep dive into the industry or the geographic location that you're most interested in.
Okay. And our next question, I think this is going to have to be the last one, unfortunately, is innovation seems to be a big focus for manufacturing company CEOs to capitalize on. What are some of the investments in innovation that are present today or on the horizon?
Yep, that's correct. From the survey results, we're seeing that industrial manufacturing CEOs are viewing innovation as a key to a future that is driven by that human talent, the skills and relationships. A number of technologies, including robotics, cobotics, drones, 3D printing, and nanotechnology, have direct relevance for many industrial manufacturing applications. And these are the kind of investments that are being contemplated by CEOs based on survey results. There are other technologies, such as augmented reality, which can enable manufacturers to also give customers real-time information and training. So we're seeing these investments both at companies themselves as well as potential integration with their customers in the future.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time. I'd like to thank Kimmy Donald and PwC for an outstanding presentation, and I also want to thank our sponsor, Epicor. As a reminder, if you're registered as a group, please have the names and emails of all in attendance on the exit survey. On behalf of IndustryWeek, have a productive remainder of the day. Goodbye.